Fix yourself a cup of coffee and let's talk about shooting some guns. All right, let's cover some of the foundations today of setting up a long-range rifle and consistently being accurate, consistently putting that shot at 500 yards, 800 yards, 1,000 yards, right behind the crosshairs. See a lot of people shooting and, they'll shoot, they'll be like, man, I was right there when it fired. The crosshair was dead on it, but for some reason, I don't know why I didn't hit there, 9 times out of 10, if your crosshairs was there, but it didn't hit where you wanted to, it's simply because you had some form issues going on. Your gun didn't react the same way. Your gun doesn't react the same every time. So let's talk about that and what it takes to get your gun to react the same. And something a lot of people don't realize or don't think about, and this might sound crazy to you, especially in your hunting rounds, 300 Win Mag, 7mm mag, you got 300 Rum, you have 300 PRC, you have your magnums. I shoot a 338 Lapua. This is a 6.5 PRC. Something a lot of people don't understand or have never really thought about is that gun moves before the bullet exits the barrel. And so if that gun doesn't move consistently, then you're not going to get consistent groups. Even if you have the gun shoots the most accurate, it shoots half-inch groups at 100 yards. If the gun isn't moving consistent, you're not going to get consistent hits. All right, so I like shooting with a bipod on the front. A couple reasons. One is there's a lot of adjustability there. You can get that up and down, lock it in. You can get that the exact height you want. If you're shooting up a little bit, extend them out. If you're shooting down, put them in. If you're shooting flat, you just want to keep this whole platform as close to the ground as you possibly can. Shooting in a mountain terrain, a lot of Western hunters are. So you're going to want a bipod that does this. It swivels, and this thing, you swivel it, get your level perfectly level. You can get that thing locked back in position to where you're golden and you got the front taken care of. Now for a rear rest, I like using bags. Shooting in the field, shooting at targets, bags are great. It's not as friendly to carry a bag with you in the field, so there's some other options there, and we'll cover that. But having a bag on your rear rest is probably the most solid rear rest that you can get. A couple things with bags to look out for and to watch for is when you're setting this up like this, make sure you set this bag up between your pistol grip here and the butt of your gun, so that your rifle has free recoil, just like that. So every time you shoot, that recoil comes straight back. If you set it up too far forward, you tend to get some just bulky recoil. You don't get that consistent back every time. And the same goes if you put it back too far. Again, your butt can get buried into the bag, not giving you consistent recoil. If you have a sling stud in the back here, I would suggest to take it out, unless you're using it a lot, because it just gives you a little bit more room for setting up your bag. It just gives you an extra couple inches, because you don't want that rear stud setting on that bag either, because it's going to bury itself in that bag and it's going to rip as it tries to recoil. So that's kind of the foundations of setting up, your bipods, your rear bag. If you can do that, you're going to have a solid platform. You're going to start getting that consistent recoil. Now, a couple other things. When you're laying prone, which is most of the time what you're doing, you're laying flat out on the floor. You want to get yourself aligned perfectly behind the gun. You want your body in straight line. A lot of people tend to lay sideways to the gun, and then what happens is they have this stock kind of on the side of their shoulder, and when they recoil, it might push that way a little bit more, or next time they'll have it in their shoulder a little bit more, and they get straight back recoil. And it's just going to cause for some inconsistency. So get straight behind the gun, get your body mass, the weight of your body laying right behind the gun, and get that gun right on the center of your shoulder, right in that shoulder pocket. And then you're going to have that straight recoil back every time, whether you're sitting at a bench like this or whether you're sitting, or laying prone in the field. You want to make sure that is centered right on, where you get some really nice, have nice body mass for that rifle to recoil into. So if you can do those, it kind of leaves us one thing left, and that's trigger control. Trigger control is one of the most important things, and I always like to tell guys this. If you know when the rifle goes off, you probably will be surprised with where your bullet will hit, because it probably won't hit where you thought it should. You want to be surprised when the gun goes off, not be surprised where the bullet hits. So Just a nice clean trigger pull where you're laying up, you're doing all the right things. You're getting yourself straight behind the rifle. You got everything set. You got this bag setting right in the middle. And you're gonna load, you're gonna push forward. You're gonna get your crosses right on the target, just a little bit high. And then as you slowly push forward, it does what they call loading the bipods. It allows those bipods, especially if it's extended a little bit, it allows those bipods to flex forward just a little bit, so that as soon as the gun recoils, you're not having bipod hop. So I always try to do that. Set that crosshairs just a little bit high, push forward just a little bit, get that bipod right in the middle, and then just a straight, slow trigger squeeze. You want that rifle to completely surprise you when the shot fires. And you're probably gonna have a good experience, and you're probably gonna be a lot more consistent in the field. Now, I told you I'll talk about some rear options for in the field, something that's lighter. This is a Bipod Buddy. I have no affiliation with them except I like it, and I use it, and I've shot some long shots off of this. It's called Bipod Buddy. I assume bipodbuddy.com or something. I don't know, you can Google and try to find it. But I like this for my rear rest in the field, especially if I'm carrying it any distance. And it basically just replaces this bag. So it's nice and light and very adjustable. You can get that thing exactly where you want it. Set that up. Just have it set nice and straight. So again, when your gun recoils, you get a nice consistent back recoil. You don't want to set it like this. You don't want to set it like that. Just nice and straight. So when your gun fires, you just get that straight back recoil again. Don't, make so it's not cocked, just everything's squared. Same goes with your bags. Everything's squared up real nice. So I think if you can do that, you're gonna have a lot more accurate shots. You're gonna have more fun shooting. You're gonna have your bullets hitting where you want them. And all those things make a big difference. Now, the last thing that I want to mention, honestly, this isn't something that I've seen anywhere, hardly. I think I've seen one post on Facebook or Google somewhere that I ran across, and I started doing this, and especially on your rifles that are lighter and that are Magnum rifles, and it made a big difference. I had one rifle that I had the time of my life trying to put a load together and shoot good, and I'd shoot a couple good shots, and all of a sudden I have one flyer, and I couldn't figure out what's going on. What I figured out is the rifle was a 28 Nosler, and it was super light, and the recoil on it was ridiculous. It had a muzzle brake, but the muzzle brake isn't as effective as some. And I figured out what was going on is the rifle, like I said earlier, moves before the bullet comes out. And I figured out what's going on is as light as the gun was, it was just jumping too much for me to be consistent. So what I started doing was I had everything set up. I'd use my left hand, and I'd get everything perfect. I'd move this bag, everything's perfect. And just before I fired the shot, I pulled my hand up like this, just take 2 fingers, put it right on those front rings, and just add weight to the gun. Basically making that 6-7 pound gun weigh 20 pounds. And I just straight down pressure, not pulling to the side, you're not pushing over, just straight down, just adding 10 or 15 pounds and slowly going through my shot. And it started working, and amazing gun, it shot really well. And so I've been telling guys a lot since then, especially on your Magnums that are hunting rifles, that are lighter guns, it just helps you steady. The very last thing is put those 2 fingers right in the front and just go through your shot, making sure you're just pushing straight down. So again, when recoil, you're not pulling the gun this way or nothing, just straight down. And I started doing that with this rifle. It's a 6.5 PRC, shooting 140 grain bullet at, I forget, 30-50 or something. And that it shoots amazing. My first real long shots at 900 yards, I think I shot a 3-inch group with it, doing that very thing. So I hope these tips help you and make a difference for you in the field and on the range. And until next time, keep enjoying that cup of coffee.